Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the SEGI Global Classroom series. And my name is Nitya. I'll be your host today. Before we begin, let's do a quick tech check. Please type yes if you could hear me and see me clearly. Please type yes if you could hear me and see me clearly. Okay, great. Let's proceed. May I invite all of you who are watching to comment below and let us know where you're connecting in from. I know tonight we have hundreds of registrations coming in from all over Malaysia, from our campuses in Penang, Kuala Lumpur, Subang Jaya, and Sarawak. And we have participants from overseas as well. So please comment below and let us know where you are coming from. Please comment below. Let us know where you are coming from. Okay, great. We have participants from all over the world. We have from campuses from Penang, Kuala Lumpur, Subang Jaya, and Sarawak, and also from Bangladesh, KL, United States of America, Switzerland, Finland. Okay, thank you. On behalf of SEGI Group of Colleges, I would like to welcome everyone once again to this webinar under SEGI Global Classroom Series. The SEGI Global Classroom Series consists of the many episodes of our webinars and sharing sessions from our global network of speakers and experts to ignite this passion and curiosity of our students. It also serves as a platform for our students locally in Malaysia to network and learn from international students from our partner institutions all over the world, including the UK, US, and Switzerland and Finland. We are honored tonight to have Associate Professor Dr. Derek Watson from University of Sunderland. Dr. Derek Watson will be sharing on sharpening your MBA academic writing skills. This session is to help you learn the basic of writing academic writing. You will learn to explore how to organize an essay and write it in academic style. Before I introduce our speaker to everyone, let me walk you through how we will conduct our session tonight. The presentation will take roughly around 40 minutes, and after that, we will open up for question and answer session. We would like to encourage you to pose your questions throughout the session, and our speaker will try his best to answer your question. Now, let's introduce our speaker. Dr. Derek Watson is an associate professor and senior fellow of the Higher Education Academy, founder of the Faculty Business Clinic, and the doctoral lead for the university's Research Fridays program. His researches focus on the cultural compliance and academic industry collaboration, investigating the impact of knowledge exchange on practice in both the classroom and the workplace. Dr. Watson has an international portfolio of clients and contacts, such as the British Cabinet Office, Indian Government Council of the Scientific and Industrial Research, Dubai Police, and Canon International. Now, without further ado, let's bring up Dr. Derek Watson to say hi to our viewers. Hello, Dr. Derek.
Good afternoon, or possibly good evening if you're in Malaysia or other places in the world.
Good, good afternoon. And I shall pass the floor to Dr. Derek to continue now.
Thank you very much indeed. It's always, and I need to emphasize this, it is always a pleasure to work with my friends and colleagues in Malaysia. University of Sunderland and SEGI colleges have had a relationship going well over 20 years. So I consider Malaysia my second home. And hopefully I will be out there tasting the food early next year and meeting some students. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about, before I move down the slides, the techniques on creative writing. But what I want to emphasize is the golden thread throughout this presentation is how to successfully complete your academic program. Because what I see is each year when I teach, I see very able students struggling. I quite often see weaker students developing techniques and actually passing the students who are potentially academically stronger. So what I want to emphasize is it's a process of technique. You certainly do not need to be the smartest student to enhance your creative writing skill. However, what you do need, you need a technique, and you need to muster, refine, develop this technique. And remember, 2 heads are always better than 1 head. So it's very important that you go through your academic program, not in isolation, but one of working as a team and embracing each other's learning experience. Now, that isn't a case of the word plagiarism, certainly not plagiarism, but like when you go into an organization, you really work by yourself. It is a team dynamic. And that's what you need to think about is enjoy your learning journey, work as a team to enhance your groups, your teams, and your individual creative writing. So, quite often, students at the start of a term, they get their assignments. And it is possibly one of the most uncomfortable days in your studying career at university or at college when you receive your assignment. And quite often, you'll have a submission date issued on the assignment. And quite a lot of students quite often say, oh, well, that's not until Christmas, or that is not until January. If Malaysia is like the UK now, there are specific celebrations, ornaments, trees, festive merchandise in shops now. Time will go very quick. So the key to creative writing is to start today and to work within your time frame within that. However, if you panic, this will be counterproductive. This will help no one. So the key is to avoid panicking is to make a plan. And what I get my students to do in Malaysia and the UK and further other places around the world, day 1, week 1 of the program, I will issue their assignment. Or I'll give them an exercise. I'll give them a topic. And I'll say, write for 5 minutes on this topic, on this PowerPoint slide, or on the whiteboard, which I will have written. Write 5 minutes your thoughts. And quite often, students feel a little apprehensive, but once they start writing, invariably, they can write for 5 minutes and they can write a lot longer. And this is what we call the journal flow. Everyone has an opinion. And what you need to do is package your opinion so when people read it, it influences them. It makes their life better, or they get greater clarity on looking at a complicated system a lot more easier. Now that's when it works right, when you can put pen to paper or finger to keyboard and the information flows quite effectively. Writer's block, as it says, is you constantly look at the screen and you look and you think and you look again, but there's no information being typed on that screen. My suggestion is if you experience writer's block, stop what you're doing, go to the gym, go and watch a movie, go for a walk, but do not force yourself to continue. Or what you can do is go on the internet and type in videos on how to avoid writer's block, or videos how to enhance your journal flow or how to enhance writing skills. There are a ton of videos out there and you can watch relaxing and learning without actually typing anything that you have to. Now, what I encourage students to do is when they get the assignment or when they're asked to write something, you've got to read. There is no question, there's no easy way around this. You need to read. Now, quite often students will go to the library, have been taught how to extract a journal paper. Now, a journal paper is different to a textbook. A textbook, quite often by the time it gets published, can be quite several years old. A journal paper has probably been written within the past 12 to 13 months, maybe a little bit shorter. So when you read a journal paper, it's up-to-date information. But the problem is students read a journal paper and A, they don't understand it because they've speed read it. And secondly, they say, well, this doesn't help me answer my question. And what you need to do with a journal paper, you need to have a blank piece of paper. In the center, you need to write the topic of your assignment. And then when you read a journal paper, you will identify various themes. So for example, I've got 4 themes here, but theme 1 is split into 2 areas because it could be a large theme. But what you need to do is you need to read, write, and edit. You must write because psychologically, if you're writing at the end of your study period, you feel that growth. You feel as though, well, at least I've written something. Now, albeit you'll write something and you'll need to polish it up. And it means going to sleep the following day with fresh eyes, looking at your introduction or your main body of text and seeing how you can develop it. But once again, you need to read. So for example, the first journal paper, you'll write your topic and you'll read the paper and identify 5 themes, or really 4 themes, but we're splitting theme 1 and 2 because it's a large topic. So what you then do, when you read a second journal paper, you will put a hoop, a different colored pen hoop round the theme. So themes 1, as I said, have been split. Theme 3 has been duplicated, and theme 4. So the second paper you've read, it's covered themes 1, 3, and 4. And you've identified that with a red ring round, and you've put a reference. So already at a very early stage, you start to identify, well, what you're reading is being repeated. This possibly is the key area. And as you go through the journal papers, you'll come across additional themes that have been duplicated, hence indicated by the green ring. And then your 4th or your 5th paper, you'll identify that these are the core areas. Now, just because I'm saying this is the 4th or 5th journal paper that you've read, doesn't mean to say that's all you've got to read. Because what you do is you aim for a situation called data saturation. Data saturation is you're reading a journal paper and you're reading the same information again, which you've already done. Once you come to this point, having read an additional few papers, you'll say, right, I've got the key core themes of my area of investigation. That is your ticket to start putting pen to paper and starting to reference. Now, students quite often lose marks because A, they haven't read enough about it, and the tutor can read the assignment and your answer is stretched out. It's lots of ands, buts, thens, waffle. You know, it's not concise. It's not focused within that. But equally so, a tutor will look at your paper and ask the question, has this student referenced up-to-date journals? Now we're in 2020 or coming towards the end of 2021. There are already papers out there in press 2022. And nothing pleases an academic tutor is reading a script and identifying referencing of recent journal articles. But this referencing needs to be correct. So for example, if you're referencing one author, it's a sole authored paper, in your main text, you'll put the surname, a comma, in brackets, the date. Then when you go back to the last page, your reference section, you will have the author, Watson, D. 2021, the title of the paper, the journal, the volume, the issue number, the PP page numbers, and the ISS number. Now, once again, you need to make sure that you check your references. So before you submit, always make sure with your creative writing, you do a test. You work your way through your reference section on your last page, and you try to find each of those references in your main script. And quite often, you will have referenced in your paper, but you haven't referenced in your appendix section, your reference section there. And also, if you reference from more than a one authored paper, i.e. 2 or more, you'll put the surname, et al, dot, then brackets. If it's in brackets, at the end of the et al, it's dot, comma, then 2021. And then at the end of the page, in your reference section, you've got the full list of authors, the journal publication, the volume, the issue number, the page numbers, and the ISSN number at the end. That is tight. Now, if you demonstrate thorough referencing, you will get stronger grades. Now, I already can hear in my mind's eye, that some of your students, some of you will be thinking, but how many times do you reference in a paper? And my answer is, you need to make sure, as a rule of thumb, each paragraph has a minimum of 2 references. Do not reference the same paper more than twice. So when the tutor comes to look at your paper, they can quite readily see, yes, you're referencing, yes, you're referring from sources, and you've got breadth and depth of referencing. That is very important. Now, why have I got a picture there of Ronaldo? I am talking about schedule. And if you watch any video or you listen to Ronaldo, yes, highly talented, but he does say that he has a very strict schedule. He trains every day to be on top of his game, and it doesn't come easy. So the message to creative writing is practice makes perfect. But if you study in isolation, you're going to suffer fatigue, you're going to get demotivated. Get that group environment and work as a team, as Ronaldo will emphasize. You also need a schedule. And I'm asking the students that are on courses now, do you have a schedule? In green, do you have when you get classes? And I've also got the schedule 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Some of you were thinking, does he expect me to study from 8 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. on creative writing? No, I don't. But what I am saying is you've got 7 days in a week, and what you've got is you need to take your Friday evening off or Saturday evening. If you find yourself having to study on a Friday or Saturday evening, my answer to you is you have serious issues. You should be out there enjoying yourself Friday or Saturday evening. Sunday evenings in yellow. That is when you're making your plan on what you have to do the following week. But what you'll see in the slide is blocks of empty spaces. So if I'm saying go out Friday and Saturday evening, you've got 4 evenings which you can study. But will you study? Or will you look at these smaller pockets of free time between the green blocks? And what you need to do is you need to gather information. And what I see is for creative writing, students run to the hills trying to find big companies, very busy companies, to access information. Speak to your tutors. A lot of your tutors will have networks within the commercial arena. Get journal papers. Read national tabloids, a Sunday newspaper. watch television programs, tune into Radio 4, BBC Radio 4, look at the different YouTube videos out there and gather your information. And what you're going for is data saturation. So you keep seeing and hearing the same comments. Once you're at that stage, you know you're in the right area of gathering your research. However, our university has just suffered a major cyber attack. The staff who saved their information or who had backups, it wasn't as painful as those staff who didn't have backups. So my message to you, like a squirrel with their nuts, you need to store and save your information in a safe place. And it might go against environmentally friendly policies, but at the end of the day, save it electronically, but also have a printout. So you've got a paper copy within that. So when you're talking about studying 6 till 9, you don't actually study the 3 hours. Be realistic. What you do is you drift in, you get your Facebook, your phones, you get your coffee or your cold drinks, and you kind of drift into work. And then before you know, you're checking your Facebook page, your Instagram, and you've drifted out of work. So out of 3 hours, you've really studied at best 1.5 hours. So my advice is go back to this diagram here, pick 45-minute slots during the day. And that's when you can do quite intensive work. So it's not volume, it is quality of work within that. Now, report structure is very important into creative writing. This will also contribute towards the quality of your grade. 1, breadth, depth of reading, good referencing, but very much good structure. Now, what I have here is I have a silver chain. Look at each of these sections as links of a chain. I've also included a golden thread. Now, the golden thread runs through from your abstract down to your recommendations. Your golden thread constantly makes reference to your question, because at the end of the day, with creative writing, you must answer your question. It can be a very good structure, it can have lots of referencing, but if you are not answering your question, you will not pass the assignment, or you'll get a very low grade at best. So this is what we need to do. We need to have links of a chain. Abstract, leave your abstract to the end. Your introduction, put it into context. Broad context, so it could look at what's going on in Malaysia, and then leading to a specific point, the question. And then within your introduction, you will specify, why are you writing this paper? What is the research question? Your literature review will then go on to talk about, and you can have your diagram, which you've developed from reading the journal papers, the flow diagram, which I've shown on a previous slide. You'll write about the literature review. Each of these themes individually, and then you'll have a paragraph or 2 paragraphs talking about how they all interlink, because very rarely do you get these themes in isolation. Quite often, they are self-permeated. Your methodology, questionnaire, interview, focus group, it's where you go out there, the questions are designed from your literature review, you'll ask participants. These can be fellow students, these can be family members, relatives, people who you know, who work in an organization. And once again, it doesn't have to be a large multinational. It can be a small organization, because they still have to survive and be innovative. Once you start collating in your data, it's your data analysis, don't go through and answer questions. For example, the responses from question 1 were, the responses for question 2 were. Try to cluster the themes into key areas, a bit like when you read your journal paper. Having looked at your data analysis, you will move on to your discussion. Your discussion is a very important section, because the discussion links back to your literature review. So as you're discussing and you're demonstrating creative writing, you're supporting your answer with comments such as, as supported by, this reflects the views of, this casts doubt on. So when a tutor marks your paper, they will look at the structure, they will definitely look at your literature review, have you read the key things? But they'll look at the discussion section. Are you linking your discussion back to your literature review? Are you comparing the theory to what you've found out in the workplace or live organizations? Conclusion section is very, very important, because your conclusion section looks at, have you answered your research question? Or have you answered your research question and your research objectives within that? And this, quite often, students do not put it in, but I encourage you to do this, because the next section, your recommendations, you will not find this anywhere. This has come out of your cognitive understanding of reading the journal papers, structuring your literature review, designing your methodology, testing the theory with what practice says, and then you're coming in with the medicine. The medicine is the recommendations which you're going to offer future employees. Now, your recommendations need to be broken into 3 distinct areas: strategic, long-term; tactical, medium-term; operational, short-term. And quite often students will write a paragraph of recommendations, get very few marks for that. But if you break your recommendations in to 3 paragraphs, strategic, tactical, operational, when you're finished, you'd be at worst writing at least 1 page on your recommendations. That shows the tutor who's marking your paper that you've understood the problems identified in the discussion section, which were extracted from your data analysis. And because of your literature review, you're now in a position with confidence to come up with recommendations, what you would recommend to the organization. And this is where many students fall down. They lose marks on that. Now, when you get feedback from your tutor, there are key areas where you lose marks. One is structure. One is synthesis. Synthesis is like you're making fresh coffee. You put the coffee beans in. They are the journal papers. And then you pour hot water over those coffee beans. What comes out are the core issues which you've developed from your diagrams. Remember the slide with the hoops around the core themes? You've also got to have linkage. The linkage, the introduction needs to link with the literature review, needs to link with the methodology needs to link with data analysis, and so on. But you've also got to have analysis. For example, some of you may have been to see the new James Bond movie. What do you think about it? Now, you can't just say whether you like it or dislike it. What is the evidence? What is the supporting evidence to say why you did or did not like it? Now, I might not agree with your answer. However, if you can demonstrate structure, referencing, analysis, and you support your answer that actually, I did quite like the 007 movie, I've got to respect that answer. That is analysis. Also, we've talked about referencing, and very important with the recommendations, commercial. Do your recommendations reflect maturity? Now, don't worry if you haven't worked before. That's not an issue. The challenge is, are you reading as a group? And are you applying that reading to live scenarios? And you will start to work up solutions and recommendations that you can support. A key weakness with creative writing, and some of you will be nodding your heads, you'll write an assignment, you'll submit it, you'll get your grade back, and then when you look down, you'll put your hand on your head and think, goodness, how did I miss those spelling errors within that? So what I suggest that you do, before you submit, you give yourself at least 3 days before you submit, and you try to proofread it. Having gone for a run or gone to the gym or gone to a movie, you come back with a fresh pair of eyes, and you systematically go down paragraph by paragraph, and you check for typos, errors within that. And that's where you don't lose marks. Proofreading is a very important aspect. Now, the grading system. The grading system for creative writing is like any other assessment. Students who get an F grade, a fail grade, really need to look in the mirror because they know what they've submitted is worth a fail. They haven't done any preparation. They may have plagiarized the assignment, and it is loose, at best, loosely pulled together. So they kind of know that they're on for a low grade or possibly a fail. Students who get a 40% band, they have a structure of sorts. They have partially answered the question, but their level of referencing, their level of analysis, synthesis is very weak, virtually non-existent, or they've referenced the same journal paper time and time again, and really the journal paper bears no real relevance to the subject area. However, students who get 50%, now you're on the right track. You've got the structure with your creative writing. You've got your structure. You've got your references in there. There's evidence of analysis, but it's not consistent. There are pockets of analysis and pockets of merely description, i.e. you're writing something from a textbook, you're not making any comment. At best, you'll get a 50%. Now, the students who get 60% demonstrate that they're not only on the right line, but they're taking on the techniques I've talked about, i.e. structure, good levels of referencing, good levels of consistent synthesis and analysis throughout, and also there is linkage between the sections and also viable recommendations. So if you're getting 60, that is a good grade. However, anything over 60% reflects someone who has really consciously thought a great deal. They have written draft, redrafted it, and redrafted it again. They have polished that answer up. And students, quite ironically, who get a 60, I quite often write a comment, a little extra effort, and you would have got 70 plus, possibly 80 and above. So quite often students lose the marks, but let's not kid ourselves. Students who get an F grade have not applied themselves. They know they have not applied. Those students who get 40% have kind of fingers crossed, I'll put it in and I'll see what I get. 50%, you're on the right lines, but it's lacking depth. Thereafter, you're hitting the ground. You've got clear evidence of the previous slides, which I've talked about within that. It's very important when you get your assignments back, you read the comments that your tutors write on your script and in the feedback form, because this is the indication that the tutor will write about what are the strengths in the paper. Now, if you get a 40 or a fail, it's going to be difficult to write the strengths of the report. But if you get anything above 60, you're going to get positive feedback. But equally so, despite you getting a good grade, there will be feedback identified by your tutor, not just the strengths of the paper, but what are the weaknesses in that paper, i.e. if you had done this before, you would have got a higher grade. And quite often tutors will say, you were on for a 70 grade, but without detailed referencing, without analysis, consistent analysis throughout, you're not going to achieve these grades with future assignments. You need to reflect on what the tutor says. Very important. And my last slide is a slide which you need to remember. Starting an educational program is very much like flying. It's not how you start. It's very much how you land. That is important. And I want to also emphasize what I start off by saying with the presentation. You do not have to be the smartest student to get a 70%. What you need to do is identify what are your weaknesses and what do you have to develop. And one key weakness for most students is the fact that They do not read sufficiently. They do not reflect. They think they can type up an answer, an assignment in one draft or tweak it. A students, 70% students who get the 70% are the students who constantly structure their assignment, pepper it out with referencing. And when they finish the structure, they then go back to the beginning, the abstract, and then they write an abstract. It's the last section that you write because you've written your answer, and your abstract should be approximately 150 words. But what you've got to do, you've got to practice writing your thoughts. So once again, start off with a blank screen or a blank piece of paper and start to write from scratch and identify that you can write, that you can put your comments down, albeit that these need to be polished up and refined. And speak to any professional writer for creative writing. The more you put in, the more you get out of. And particularly with journal papers, I say this to my students, the more journal papers you read, that writing style will start to influence the way that you write. But to help you with this journey, go onto YouTube, TED Talks, key and keywords for videos. There are many self-help groups out there, but do not make it out to be a difficult task. Do not run off to the big multinational companies trying to get your data. Speak to your parents, your relatives, your inner circle, and you'll be surprised, including academics, you'll be surprised at how you can access information readily and use that to work up a solid answer. Now, what I'd like to do now is open up to the students and ask me any questions about why students fail, how students can enhance the grades, any questions that you like. So I'll hand back. Hi, Nithya. Right.
Hi.
Is there any, right, here's a question here. Is there any academic writing report from the university you refer to? Yes, you can. I have a YouTube video. Type in Dr. Derek Watson, how to write a dissertation. That will explain in greater depth how to structure your, although it says dissertation, the principles are very much the same. So if you go on YouTube, Dr. Derek Watson, title, how to write a dissertation or how to successfully write a dissertation, that will help you. And I get emails from students around the world saying how informative that video is. So check it out and let me know your thoughts.
Okay, the second question, how can I make sure my reference format is the right one? Is Dr. Derek?
Right.
You can share your sharing session now with the second question.
Yeah, sure. You are a fee-paying student. Go to the specialist, the academic in your classroom. Ask the academic in your classroom which referencing style they prefer. Now, the University of Sunderland tend to support Harvard-style referencing. Once again, you can go on YouTube video. How do you Harvard reference? Within that, you also have access to our library facilities, which you can gain access on how to reference. But if you pick up most journal papers, you can see how the reference, whether it's a single author or multiple authors within that. So once again, speak to your tutor and also connect with the University of Sunderland Library.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions from the participants?
Just while you're thinking of a question there, I'll feed in as well. There is nothing more upsetting is to see capable students not getting the grades that they deserve because they don't follow the instructions provided by the academic tutors. And, you know, you need to listen to your tutors and you need to make sure that each class you go to, ask them or even show them the work that you're doing on your assignment. Got a question?
Derek, we have one question here. How much the referencing should be expected for MBA assignment?
Right. Now, I should ask you this, Eric, because I mentioned this in my presentation. However, if you look at the report structure, and most of you will be asked to write reports. If you look at the literature review, the discussion section, and more so the literature review and discussion section, in that area there, you need to be referencing a minimum of 2 references per paragraph. So when your academic tutor looks at the piece of paper, scans down, they can readily identify references. Don't forget, you'll also need a reference to support your methodology, which tools you're using. That's important. But you do not reference the same source more than twice. And quite often I'll see students referencing the same author 4, 5, 6 times in a paper. You can't do that. A good technique is look at the last page on the journal paper, look at the authors who've written it, and you'll start and see the key authors. They're the key contributors to that theory. But it's one of practice and asking your tutor. A bit like flying. Not how you start, it's how you land, how you graduate.
Can we use those journals ahead of pre? That's another question, Dr.
Yeah, sure. I've got a journal paper in that is going to be published in 2022. So quite often you can gain access to these by the electronic databases, by the library resources, which you can access journal papers. But if you're referencing 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, you know, that's quite up to date.
Another question. Do I need an abstract for essay or for it only applies to report?
You need to check with your tutor, but the whole purpose for an abstract is it's for busy managers in preparation for the world of work. Busy managers who don't have time to read the report, read the abstract, which summarizes why you're writing the report, how you collected the data, and what were the key findings. Your abstract needs to create the appetite for someone to want to read your report. So it's important, but you need to check with your tutor whether you need that for essays. A lot of the assignments we do at the University of Sunderland are report-based because that's what employers want when they go out there, report structure.
Okay, we do have another question. Doctor, we provide multiple citation. Will it be considered or fall as plagiarism?
No, because what you can do is with Turnitin, you can identify that you've used references. And one thing students know, and this is what I say to students know when they've plagiarized. Students are not going to be held to account if they've referenced from multiple sources, but you need to put the words in your own narrative within that. But multiple citations is very encouraging. Make sure that they're from referee journals because there's a lot of information out there. But I also tell my students, if they don't understand a subject, go and look up Wikipedia. Do not reference Wikipedia. But the first port of call, get to understand what the topic is you're going to be writing about. And quite often that is Wikipedia. Simple, plain English.
We have one more question, Dr. Derek. Would you mind to share more strategies that assist us with analysis writing?
Yes. Think of a coin, 2 sides. For everything positive, you can see there's a negative to that. Look at the political debate that is going on within that. Look at the debate, if you follow football, the challenges Manchester United are going through with their current score against Liverpool. Look at the debate with governments, the government and the opposition. So for everything positive that you see in life, every one of those positives can be made into a negative. So this is your analysis. What are the arguments for? What are the arguments against within that? But when you come to your discussion, this is what you mirror. These are the positives. These are the negatives. When you come to your recommendations, your strategic, tactical, operational, this is where you use your cognitive knowledge to come up with solutions to those challenges within that.
Okay, Dr. Derek, we do have another question. Are we able to quote YouTube or online news article from credible news source for referencing?
You won't be able to quote YouTube, but you can quote credible tabloids like the Financial Times or the Sunday Times or the Malaysian Times within that. But watching YouTube videos on aspects of management, for example, TED Talks, if you're mentally fatigued, and a good way of still absorbing information is, right, I'm going to watch a couple of YouTube videos, TED Talks, for half an hour. You'll be surprised at how much information you can acquire, and that will then help you go back to the journal. Also, work with your library services. They will help you source journal papers. They won't read them for you, but they'll help you source them.
Okay, one more. This will be last question, if I'm
Right.
not mistaken. How many journals do we need to read to write an MBA assignment?
Well, it's very similar to the first couple of slides. You'll start off with a blank sheet of paper. The first journal paper you'll write the themes of that journal paper down. The second journal paper, you'll see if those themes are duplicated or additional themes. The more you read, the closer you get to the core themes. So I would say for an average assignment, and this is just a ballpark figure, you need to be reading a minimum of 20 or 30 journals, right? If you're reading 20 or 30 journals, you're reading a lot of information within that, and you've created your diagram to justify, yes, these are the core things that keep being repeated within that. And that's what students need to realize. And that's why you need a schedule. You can't read all the journal papers in one day. You need to read a journal paper and then make notes on it, or a flow diagram within that.
Okay, Doctor, we have one last question.
Sure.
Which means citations to be rephrased in our own words?
Well, what you'll do is, for example, I write journal papers, and you might read a paper that I've written. And so what you would do is the citation would be Watson, D, bracket 2021, close brackets. And what you'd say is the commentary of Watson suggests, and then you put it in your own words. Or what I tell students to do is, for example, if you've got an assignment, say, on leadership, you might read lots of definitions on leadership. So you create a diagram with the theorists around the outside, and in the center, you've got the common things of that definition. So then what you would say is, in your narrative, having read various theorists on leadership, it is my interpretation that leadership is, and you write your own definition, and you put in brackets, see figure A, and the tutor can see that. Be very careful to paraphrase what you're writing. It's better to read it, close the paper, think about it, and put it in your own words on paper or on your tablet or laptop.
Dr. Derek, that would be the last question from our participants. And thank you, Dr. Derek.
Just say one more thing to the students. You all have the ability to pass your MBA. No question about that. And I've taught many, many MBA students over the years. The biggest hurdle is students try to look for the easy way through. and they always get caught out. So work as a team, don't work individually. Thank you, Nithya.
Thank you, Dr. Derek, for answering the questions and everyone for your participation as well. Thank
Yeah,
you.
best of luck.
We have come to the end of our session tonight. On behalf of SEGI Group of Colleges, I would like to thank Dr. Derek Watson for his sharing tonight. And to all our viewers, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming episode of SEGI Global Classroom Series. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe too.